Welcome back to the Keep Going podcast with Vin Kennedy. I'm your host, Vin Kennedy. Today, we have a special guest. This is Allie. Allie, you want to do a brief intro?
Hello, I'm Allie. I'm from Boston, Mass. I'm an energy healer, meditation teacher, a content creator, and all that.
Yeah. So I think I came across you on TikTok, and obviously, like you said, like a healer, just kind of on a self-growth journey as I am. And it was really cool to see and the vulnerability in it and the different ways that you navigate it. So I just think the best place to start off is like, what is self-love to you?
Self-love to me, I think it has grown into something so much deeper over the years. I mean, I used to really think it was a very surface level thing of just loving, I'm a great person, or loving what I saw in the mirror. And self-love to me has really become this deep and intimate relationship with myself, like the core of who I am, and getting really deep with my soul, knowing myself and living from that place of, knowing who I am and connecting to that every single day, tending to myself, nurturing myself, like even on the days I don't want to. So it really is just a relationship with yourself. And that, I think that realization for me really changed self-love.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think a lot of people, me included, like you get caught up in like it's massages and like
It's
the simple,
self-care, and that's
right,
part of it.
exactly. Yeah, but it's like you said, it's way deeper. And what kind of stuff do you do to connect yourself to yourself?
A lot of the times I like to view self-love as kind of like the daily ways that you tend to yourself, and that requires you to check in with yourself on a daily basis and say, what do we need today? What does my soul need today? So I would say my favorite thing is to sit with myself. And a lot of people, I mean, I usually just call it meditation because it's so much easier to say to others, but every morning I sit with myself, I breathe love into myself, and I ask, what do we need today? And I move from that place. And I feel like that has truly what has helped me grow such an intimate relationship with myself, because it's a daily check-in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's the toughest thing to do. And like that's the growth, right? Is like to actually be by yourself. Like I'm someone, I
Mm-hmm.
listen to music all day long, and like I try hard to like not have a podcast on, not listen to music, because like you said, in those times, like that's when you have the tough conversations.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's tough. It's tougher than it sounds though.
It is. It is.
How do you kind of balance? Because I know you work out as well, and obviously have a ton of things going on. Like, how do you balance the like listening to yourself, but not becoming, and I don't want to say lazy, but almost like, of course, some days you need to sit there and just really, you need a day, right? But how do you not
Mm-hmm.
let those days stack? So, like, obviously listen to yourself, but at the same time, like, get other things done that need to get done.
So, a question that I constantly come back to is, how can you show up for yourself today? And if that day feels more authentic to show up for myself in a way of slowness and stillness and not doing much, and I really check in, I know that's coming from a place of that's what my soul needs, then I go from that. But there's also times when I know that I need to force myself to do the things. And I think it comes down to not motivation and not being disciplined, but being committed to yourself and committed to your relationship with yourself. So, and committed to feeling good. So I've been through seasons where I just haven't been able to get myself to do the things that I know I need to do, and I don't feel great. And it gets to a point where I have to have that conversation with myself and say, all right, we're making the daily promise to show up again, and just starting from there.
Right. So it's like, it's an investment to possibly feel better in the future.
Knowing that knowing the things that make you feel good and showing up for those things because you know that you are worthy of feeling good.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So I don't know if you, obviously you're in the self-growth space, but are you familiar with like David Goggins?
I'm not sure.
Crazy like Navy SEAL, like go, go, go. And it's funny because then,
Okay, no.
so then you have guys like, do you know Jay Shetty?
Yes.
So it's funny because like I find myself in like a balance between the two, because obviously like I'm very fitness oriented and like, goal oriented, but then I find myself more grounded. So that's why like a conversation like this is like one I couldn't wait to have, because it touches more of that other side. Especially I feel like for men it's something that's definitely missed, where it's like you got to just go 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 and you got to be in the gym and just do. But like this
Mm-hmm.
is sit with yourself, know yourself, and like actually love yourself. And I
Mm-hmm.
personally couldn't say that I did for a long time. Like now I look in the mirror and I'm proud of who I am. And it's just funny because it's true. It's like it really comes from like that deep sitting and like understanding why you do things or why things are happening, and just yourself, really just understanding yourself as a whole.
Mm-hmm. And when you get to a place of knowing yourself, you can also kind of sort out the different voices in your head where, you know, there's one, I mean, the body knows better than your mind. So if you really listen to your body, you'll know what's best for you on any given day. But that really requires getting super in touch with yourself. And we live in a world, again, like you said, that's go, go, go and work out 6, 7 days a week and
Right.
keep going and hustle. So we forget to like tap into the body.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I just want to ask, like, how did your kind of self-growth journey, like, where did this really spark for you?
Um, I feel like there's a few different like sparking points. I would say I in high school in my early 20s, I was in and out of hospitals for eating disorder recovery, and that was kind of forced on me. I didn't choose to go to hospitals, so I remember one time I just checked myself out when I was finally old enough, and I was like, I'm not doing this anymore, and that was the first moment I chose myself and decided I couldn't live that way anymore. And it just kind of went up from there. And then I would say it got, so I was like, that's when I healed my relationship with my body and with food. But self love is something that came, I would say, the deepest starting in like 2020 when I feel I had like a spiritual awakening. I was never spiritual before. I was never really in touch with myself. I had just recovered from my hard years of like deep self hate. But 2020, I was also in a very emotionally abusive relationship. And that's kind of what sparked, honestly, my whole journey.
So you think maybe it was like a lack of love that you were getting due to the relationship caused you to like fall into this almost loving yourself harder and like really accepting?
Exactly. It like forced me in order. I mean, I always say in that season of my life, I had the choice to either turn back to my eating disorder or choose different. And that was the first time in 24 years of my whole life that I chose different. And
Yeah.
so I was forced to love myself and get like really, really deeply love myself.
Yeah. That's awesome. And that's it. Unfortunately, it always takes like the tough stuff, right? To like actually force the change and create a better version of yourself. And I just want to ask, like, so then you also mentioned prior to recording, like, you did a lot of traveling. Like, where does that courage come from? Like, where did that courage to like step into the new rather than fall back to the old really come from?
I think just trusting myself and continuing to go after the things that I want and what my soul is craving. I've gotten really in tune with the voice in my head and I can really know if it's coming from a healthy place. I follow my soul, and I would say like my with travel, I guess it all started in 2018. I went to Greece for the first time, and that trip absolutely changed my life. And from there, that like gave me the confidence to keep doing things. I went home from that trip and I dropped out of school and I started my own business like right that second. And when you continue to follow your soul, see where it leads you, you kind of gain confidence if you just do the things that you're so afraid to do and you can keep doing them.
It's true. Yeah. And you could like, again, I'm actually in the same exact boat. So 2020, I kind of had my own like spiritual awakening, and I reverted back after, but then now I'm fully in it. And when you're in that alignment, like you're saying, like it's just you have the confidence to do any, like even this podcast, like you have the confidence just to push through, and like you're so good
Mhm.
with you that the outside noise doesn't matter.
Mhm. And just feeling the fear and doing it anyway. So fear is always going to exist. And that's kind of like our ego keeping us safe. But if we really follow the voice of our soul, we can move past that fear and do the things. And that's how we gain the confidence.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We gain it from doing. And you mentioned like, so it's something that I always think about, like that voice in your head. So like, do you view that as separate from who you are? Like, because I know personally, I throw myself in a lot of difficult fitness challenges and I have that voice that it's like, oh, it's cold out, it's raining, like you don't want to run today. And it's like, I, I, I do force myself to do those things because I know I'll feel way better after. And it's ultimately what I want to do. So yeah, do you feel like it's like a separate entity from yourself?
Yeah, I feel like kind of as if there's just these two different voices, how everyone's always like the devil and the angel. There's also, I think it was on TikTok, I heard this. Someone had said, like, there's two wolves in your head. You get to choose, like, which one you're going to feed. And so we're always going to have, like, the inner critic and the voice that feels like it's working against us and telling us not to do the things. And so how I handle that is like kind of picture that voice as like a little kid having a tantrum, and my like true self comes in and like has a conversation with that little kid and
Right.
kind of like holds a hand as we like walk towards what we actually want to do.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I feel like I've heard that analogy in so many different ways. And even with dealing with people, right? Like, so a lot of people that come at you with hate or just, lash out at you, you just kind of view them as a child that just haven't healed from specific events that they've went through.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a great analogy that can be used in so many different
Hmm.
ways.
Yeah, like softening towards everyone's inner child.
Yeah,
That's what I try to do.
absolutely. What's advice you would give to like a younger version of yourself? So obviously 2020, you had the courage, but in that time when you were kind of making that decision, what was something that you would say to yourself, knowing who you are now and kind of all that you encompass now?
I would say it's funny because I actually think about this a lot. I would tell her that one day she would see exactly why she was going through what she was going through and exactly why the path had to be that way, and just tell her to keep going.
Yeah, no, it's that's why it's the name of the podcast. But it's true. It really is that, right? It's just if you keep pushing through, you will get through whatever you're going through. And
Hmm.
it's so hard to see when we're in it. It's so much easier to give advice outside looking in, but it's just about perseverance, really.
Hmm. And you'll also see why those things happened and why you had to hurt the way you hurt or go through the things you went through. It all really aligns us to where we're meant to be in the end. Something I always like to remind myself, my community, everything is that healing feels like breaking. So when you're going through the seasons of breaking, you're really piecing yourself back together in a much stronger and more authentic and aligned way.
It's so true. It really is. And there's certain situations where like even still, I feel like you might not get the message of why you went through a specific thing right away. Like I personally,
Mm-hmm.
I lost an uncle to suicide. And that's something that I often think about. I actually weirdly had a dream about it last night. And it's just one of those things where it's like, I don't have that specific answer. I know it's changed me as a person, made me stronger, but I don't have the specific answer for why that happened. But like you said, I kind of just lean into like at some point I'll know.
And first of all, I'm really sorry to hear about that.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
But it really is like, even if you can't see why something happened, you can see what it taught you or the growth that it brought you, um, which always is a beautiful part of even the most, like the ugliest parts of our lives.
It's so true. We grow through what we go through, right?
Hmm.
What would you say as far as like, so again, I'm on both ends of the spectrum sometimes, but like I feel that like almost imposter syndrome with certain things. Like I wasn't a runner prior to running a marathon, and now I'm running a second one, and now I feel as if, I'm a runner. But even in like some of your growth and just, do you ever have issues with identity, and like what do you kind of do to combat that?
Yes, I have them all the time. Even
Yeah.
when I'm doing things I have done over and over and over, I have imposter syndrome, and I think it is such a normal thing. And what I just tell myself is to act as if. act as if I am that person that does that thing or has that thing. And also just asking myself the question of why not me? Why can't I do that thing? Why would someone else be able to do it and not me? Just recognizing again that voice where it's imposter syndrome and acting as if. And I feel the fear and I do it anyways, like I said. Um, but yeah, a lot of getting over imposter syndrome is acting as if you are that person that you see yourself being or that does that thing.
Sure, because then you just become it, right?
Again, it's like that's how you build the confidence. You're not going to
Right.
build the confidence in what you want to do or in who you are until you walk in those shoes for a little.
So true. So, and then just to bring it back a little bit, when you dropped out of school and started your own business, what did that kind of entail? And do you want to kind of tell that story a little bit?
Um, so that was 2018 and I dropped out and had no clue what I was going to do with my business. I had grown my Instagram already, so I was doing food blogging at the time and I was also sharing my journey of recovery from my eating disorder. Um, and that was the year I think I really stepped into happiness for the first time in what I felt like was my whole life. So I started working with clients. I remember I made like my first group coaching program or like online coaching program, and I worked with clients around their mindset. Um, and from there, then I worked with clients on food freedom and eating disorder recovery after I had been recovered for a few years. And now it's taken more of it's such a different it's so different now from where I started.
But you're so different, right? So doesn't that kind of like it
Mhm.
transformed as you did? That's kind of awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's so cool. And how many clients like do you work all of you virtual or you're like meeting up with people in person or
All virtual. And I would do retreats that I hosted in Greece, where it
that's
like
awesome.
all started for me. Yeah, everything's been virtual. And yeah, it really is crazy to think about the beginning and like how much has truly shifted.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And just to touch on so what really got you through like so obviously you healed as a person and the eating disorder was something that helped you evolve, but what was like it's just a tough thing to combat. I don't think I had a full-blown eating disorder, but I definitely have struggled with food in different
Mm.
situations as far as I was heavier at one point and then when it comes to like being in the gym and want to getting lean, like you kind of deprive yourself almost. So what kind of advice would you have to someone battling like an eating disorder now, or what kind of got you through?
It's so hard because I never thought I would be able to say this, but I cannot fully remember what it was like to be in my eating disorder. And so I could never like today work with eating disorder clients like I used to because I can't relate as much, which I think that in itself is a message of so much hope for anyone struggling because I truly cannot remember what it was like to be that person. And I would say that you are so much more than how you look because I know that a lot of eating disorders stem from. I mean, it's so much deeper than how you look, and eating disorder really isn't about how you look, but on the surface level, it's this constant fear of weight gain and all of that. And I would just, for anyone going through it, tell them that like your life is so much more important than your weight. I gained so much more than just weight when I recovered. I gained life, I gained memories, I gained happiness, I gained energy. I mean, the two lives that I literally feel like I've lived two different lives, like me with my eating disorder and me after. And after is so much better than I ever could have imagined. And I was so afraid of recovery.
Yeah, I think like you said, that's almost more just like helping than a message, right? It's just the evolution and growth that you've had that you don't even recognize that person anymore. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
I cannot resonate. I'm just
yeah,
I can't even believe I lived that way.
it's so powerful, and I kind of like go back to myself, and like as you're saying that, I think of, because at one point I'm like 185 pounds now, but I was 250, and a very unhealthy 250. I didn't go to the gym, I didn't run, I didn't eat healthy, and like it's almost the same. Like I don't even remember that person. And then
Mm-hmm.
like everybody else, or not like everybody else, but certain people have that going out phase. And I feel like I'm even drifting from that now. Obviously, it's a little closer related, so I still remember some of it. But I almost can't wait until like I evolve and like don't recognize that person. And
Mm-hmm.
it's funny, like on these types of journeys, like I see snap memories, and like I see like a month ago, and I'm even like, really? Like
Yeah.
that's, I don't even remember, like, because I do a lot of like rants on my Snapchat, and I'll send them out to my friends and stuff. And like I'll be like, wow, like I don't even think that way anymore. And I think that's the coolest thing, is that like the evolution throughout the whole journey, where some people
Mm-hmm.
sit there and it's like, oh, it's scary to change. It's like, for me, it's almost scary not to change at this point.
Mm-hmm. You like cannot recognize your old self.
Yeah,
It's so insane because I have the same thing too, where like a random Snapchat memory will come up and I'm like, I can't believe that was ever me.
it's crazy. Yeah, it's funny though, because like some of like the core stuff stays, but then the
Mm-hmm.
other, like just certain stuff, I'm like, wow, like even values, and like it's so cool. It really is. It's so cool to see the growth, and like I love Snapchat
Yeah.
for that fact.
I know that's like literally the only reason I still have it because I'm like, I don't want to miss all my memories. I
Yeah,
need to see them.
it's so true. And so what's something you would like, some advice you'd give to someone that's just starting like their self-growth journey, and tips if they want to start one?
My one thing I always say is to sit with yourself. We can't get close to ourselves if we don't ever give ourselves room and silence for the soul to speak. And that's why I would say in 2020, that's when everything happened for me, is because we were forced into just like time with ourselves. And I had never fully given myself just room and space to just be. And I think sometimes we overcomplicate how to step into this journey or what to do on the journey, but the simple act of being present with yourself is the most powerful thing you can do. So
So true.
sit with yourself and see what's coming up in your mind when you literally just sit there without distractions. I usually will have like meditation music playing and I'm breathing. A lot of people say they can't meditate, and that's because they think the goal is to clear their mind and to not have thoughts. But for me, the most powerful thing is when you can have the thoughts and you're kind of like a witness to them. So if you can sit with yourself and allow the thoughts to be there, you can witness what is truly going on within. And that's when you can stop those constant thoughts from kind of controlling you. And maybe then you start to journal after that about what's coming up for you. And that's kind of how it all started for me. And it just kind of flows from there. And you get to know yourself deeper. And that's the real medicine. It's all within you.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And that's actually, I have a similar, like I meditate every day as well. And again, I don't win the battle every day. Like sometimes it's hard, but I think that's what it is, right? It's detachment, and like not attaching to those thoughts and attaching to certain identities. And it's just like you said, just sitting with yourself. And I, I don't win every day with it, but I do it every day. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so important, especially like you said, in a society today where it's like podcasts and music and Netflix, and there's so many ways to kind of just distract yourself from your thoughts, that
Mm-hmm.
it's so important, more now than ever, to actually sit with yourself and like understand who you are.
Exactly. Understanding who you are and understanding the thoughts in your mind. Because if we're not like taking time to be with those thoughts in a productive way, not in a self destructive way,
Right.
they're going to run our day. But if we can sit with them, even if you're having negative thoughts, if you can sit with that and ask why, ask where it's coming from, all of that, it's so much medicine and it's so simple. It's not easy because it's uncomfortable,
It's true.
but it's simple.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And again, to go back to, like, I feel like for men, it's kind of viewed as like you have that, and then you have the discipline end, where it's just like do, doesn't matter, feelings don't matter, all of that. And it's so hard to like navigate that. What's like a message you would send to specifically to men? Because I feel like they feel that added pressure of like the discipline and forced like healing almost.
Mhm. I would say that your softness is your strength. And so leaning into that, so much more powerful than always being having that hard shell on. And I mean, we all have the masculine and the feminine energy within us. So leaning more into that feminine energy, I mean, even for women, we all put this kind of masculine shield up when we go out into the world. But if you can learn to soften and lean into that softness and accept that, like I have had, even myself, have had to really lean into the softness this year, and it has changed me so much. So, a constant reminder that your softness is your strength, your sensitivity is your superpower.
So true. Yeah. And I'm big on leaning into like vulnerability and just kind of
Mm,
I put myself out there like fully. And most people that like really know me know that. And my mom always says it. She's like, she looks at it like, oh, you're gonna get taken advantage of. And I'm like, yeah, but when you're in this alignment, you can't like you don't lose. Like I'm
mhm.
gaining or I'm learning. Like it's not you can't lose.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely easier said than done too with the vulnerability, especially people posting on social media or just face to face. Like you meet someone for the first time, and it's hard to just open up. But when you're in that alignment, when you're being authentic, it's so easy.
And that's truly how you find the people that are going to really actually align with you. Because I
Right.
think so many times we get caught in connections that don't feel true or authentic, and it's because we're not allowing ourselves to show up as true and authentic. But when we do, we become a magnet for the people and the connections that are truly meant to be in our lives.
So true. Yeah, and I think it also kind of goes back to like comfort, and people kind of will just somewhat force those connections just because it's easier. It's easier than finding
Mhm.
someone else, or it's just it's almost sad, but it's difficult. It really is.
It is difficult.
What would you say intuitive healing really means to you?
So, you mean kind of like what I do with clients?
Yeah,
So I am trained in Reiki. Are you familiar with like Reiki energy healing?
very like minimally, but like I do know a little
Yeah.
bit.
So I am trained in Reiki, but I have a very intuitive approach to it. So I don't always like to call it Reiki. It's essentially I sit with clients, it's a virtual session, um, and we kind of clear out their old energy and just kind of realign everything within. I work with a lot of clients around self love. So, really, my main goal is to kind of bring you back to center, bring you back to you. So, it's so hard to explain because it's so intuitive, but I use Reiki and my own intuition to kind of guide me on whatever you need clearing and healing. I do a lot of meditation, guided meditation within those sessions. So, yeah, I let my intuition just guide me. So every
That's
session
awesome.
is a little different.
Yeah, that's cool, and it's probably so unique to the person, right? So like as you go through, you kind of sense what they need.
Exactly. It's also before we start, we kind of get into why are you seeking this today? And that kind of helps me navigate what are they needing? What words are they needing? Where are they needing more healing? I am going to start doing in person because when you do in person, it's like a hands-on healing. But yeah, virtual, you can still works the same without the hands.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm sure you're helping a ton of people, especially in today's day. I feel like we all need a sense of that for sure.
hmm
And lastly, the name of the podcast is Keep Going. So we always ask, what keeps you going? Like, what's your deep rooted why?
Ooh, this is a good one. My deep-rooted why, I always envision my past self, and I want to be the person that she needed because I know that there are so many other girls that are just like that past self, that past version of me. And so I want to be the person that they need, the person that I didn't have.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think, yeah, mine aligns as well. I think I know who I'm impacting. So I feel like that kind of pushes me forward. But at the same time, like I'm becoming the person that I needed at my lowest. And I feel like you're in the same. It's almost becoming that leader.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's so important.
Exactly.
I think we definitely need more people like you out there helping the people that need it.
Yeah, for sure.
But I
Like you
really,
too.
really thank you. But I honestly, I really appreciate your time and thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Of course.